All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to travel back 1,000 years to dig into this really wild theory about why we lie. And get this, it has absolutely nothing to do with psychology.
I mean, have you ever stopped to think about this? Why does it feel so much easier to be wrong than to be right? You're in a conversation, maybe a little debate, and it just seems like falsehood is everywhere. It's so easy to slip up. We've all been there, right?
Well, what if the answer isn't in our brains, but in the very words we use? We're going to explore this mind-bending idea that the very structure of our language, the grammar we don't even think about, is actually tilted, it's biased, making it almost mathematically more likely for us to be wrong than right. How crazy is that?
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we have to go on a little trip, back to the 11th century, to be exact. Our guide on this journey is an incredible Persian philosopher and poet named Nasir Khusraw. And before we can get to the really juicy stuff, we got to start with the basics. We need to understand exactly how he defined two little words, truth and falsehood.
So for Khusraw, truth, it's actually pretty straightforward. A statement is true if it's talking about something real, something that actually exists out there in the world. Something you can basically point to. It's verifiable. Simple as that.
And his favorite example is just perfect. Fire is hot. I mean, you can't argue with that, right? We all know what fire is. We all know what hot feels like. That statement perfectly matches up with reality. So, boom, it's true. Easy peasy.
So a lie, well, it's just the exact opposite. It's when you say something about a thing that just isn't there in reality. It's a total mismatch between what you're saying and what the world is actually like.
And to keep our example going, he'd say something like, "Fire is talkative. Now we know what fire is, and we know what it means to be talkative, but that quality just doesn't apply to fire, right? It's a complete mismatch with reality. Therefore, it's a lie."
But this is where it starts to get even more interesting. Khusraw realized that not all lies are created equal. He saw a really important difference in the kinds of lies we tell, and he broke them down into two main types.
Yeah, he basically put lies into two buckets. You've got your possible lies. These are things that, they could be true, they just happen to be false. And then you have the impossible lies. These are statements that are so ridiculous, so absurd, they literally violate the laws of reality. So a possible lie might be something like, "Oh yeah, my friend said he's on his way." Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. It's believable, right? It fits within how the world works. But an impossible lie? That's like saying a stone flew. Stones just don't do that. It's not just that the statement is false, it's that it completely breaks the rules of what a stone is.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got truth, and we've got these two different kinds of lies. Now we get to the real heart of it. This is the engine that drives Khusraw's entire argument. He says that if we want to understand why lies are so incredibly common, we have to look at the two most basic things our language can do.
And what are those two things? It's affirmation and negation. That's it. Affirmation is just saying what something is, and negation is saying what something is not. This tiny, simple difference, believe it or not, this is the key that's going to unlock this whole mystery.
All right, get ready, because this is where the genius of this whole thing just blows my mind. Khusraw is about to show us this fundamental imbalance, this hidden, lopsided structure built right into the way we talk. And it's what makes hitting the target of truth way, way harder than we could ever imagine. So let's start with affirmation. This is where we can only say what fire is, okay? Let's stick with our fire example.
So what are the true things we can say about fire? Well, it's hot. Yep, it's bright. For sure, it's dry. Okay, maybe we can come up with a couple more. But you see where this is going, right? We run out of options really fast. The number of true things you can say fire is, it's a very small, very finite list.
Okay, but now let's think about all the false things we could say fire is. Ready? Fire is cold, wet, a horse, blue, talkative, heavy, an idea, a song, the number 7. I mean, we could literally sit here all day. The list is endless. It is infinite. And that is the whole point. When you're using affirmation, when you're saying what something is, the zone of truth is this tiny little island, and it's surrounded by an infinite ocean of falsehood.
Okay, now hold on to that thought. Let's flip the script. What happens if we switch over to negation? What happens when we're only allowed to say what fire is not? Everything completely flips on its head. Is fire not cold? Yes, that's true. Is it not a horse? Also true. Is it not talkative? Yep, true again. In fact, every single one of those things from our infinite list of lies, they all instantly become true statements as soon as we add that one little word, not. So with negation, suddenly the number of lies is tiny and finite. You can't say fire is not hot or fire is not bright. But the number of truths, that becomes infinite. It's this perfect, beautiful, mind-bending flip. And that right there, that is the absolute core of Khusraw's idea. Just think about that for a second. With just one tiny little switch in our language, from is to is not, the entire landscape of truth and lies completely reverses itself. It's just wild.
And you know what's so amazing about this? Khusraw is writing this in the 11th century, and yet his ideas sound incredibly modern. They echo and in some ways even predict huge concepts in Western philosophy that wouldn't come along for hundreds of years.
So that first idea, that truth has to match reality, that's a classic. Philosophers from Aristotle onwards have called it the correspondence theory of truth. But what's really ahead of its time is Khusraw's obsession with the structure of language itself. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that 20th century giants like Ludwig Wittgenstein built their careers on. This idea that a lot of our big philosophical problems are really just us getting tangled up in our own language. It just goes to show you, these big questions about what's real and how we talk about it, they're just part of being human, no matter where or when you live. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, hit that right button and don't forget to subscribe. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. Your support really means a lot and helps me keep creating content for you all. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. Remember that question we started with? Why does it feel so much easier to be wrong than to be right? Well now, Khusraw gives us his answer. And it's not about psychology or morality. It's about pure logic.
So here it is, Khusraw's big reveal. The reason we get things wrong so often is simple. It's because we almost always speak in affirmation. Think about it. We spend our lives saying what things are. And every single time we do that, we are stepping onto a playing field where the lies outnumber the truths by infinity to 1. We're playing a game that is mathematically rigged against us.
And he uses this perfect, everyday example to drive it home. Let's say you just drank a glass of water. What do you say? You say, I drank water. Simple. It's efficient. Now, imagine trying to say the same thing using only negation. You'd have to say, well, I didn't drink juice, I didn't drink milk, I didn't eat a sandwich. You'd literally have to list everything in the universe you didn't do just to say one simple thing you did. Of course we default to affirmation. We have to. It's just a practical necessity to get through the day. And that just leaves us with this huge, profound final thought. If the very tool we have for describing the world, our language, if it's structurally, mathematically rigged towards falsehood, then telling the truth isn't just about being a good person. It becomes an act of incredible skill and precision. It's about taking careful aim and trying to hit this one tiny specific target in a literal infinity of wrong answers. It really makes you wonder, what does it even mean to be truthful when you're always fighting against those kinds of odds?